So this is honestly probably the truest statement we could ever say. The Apple iPhone Foldable might just be the iPhone Air glued together twice. So pretty much the concept for obviously any foldable phone is two pieces of glass, folds together, right? And with how thin the iPhone Air actually is, if you just take this phone, put a hinge next to it, and then put another iPhone Air, you could really just get yourself a foldable iPhone. And I feel like maybe Apple kind of put that out there to see what people would think of the iPhone Air. Like, hey guys, this is an iPhone Air. This is a device that super thin, maybe doesn't have the best battery life, maybe lacking some features, but kind of put some, feelers out there, see what people are thinking, because this is going to be the new iPhone Fold. Again, they would take away the, camera on the back, and they would, just make it two iPhone Airs with one camera total. But that concept kind of makes sense if you think about it, because the iPhone Air is $1,000. What's the iPhone Foldable going to be? Realistically speaking, if they want to be competitive, it would be $2,000, because that's how much Samsung's asking for their cell phone. $1,800 for Google, obviously. But if they want to be very competitive in the market, they would probably be $2,000. Now, knowing Apple, they're probably making something stupid like, $3,500 or something. Maybe not that much, but buy something stupid like $2,500, which I don't think is going to sell very well. And I think Apple needs to learn from the Apple Vision Pro that much money for a device is just doomed for failure. And I own an Apple Vision Pro. I love my Apple Vision Pro. I use it every day. But I think, Apple needs to learn it's kind of due for failure when you make a device that expensive. But this obviously is just some ideas here. So you have the Air in the middle here, and then on the left-hand side, you have what would be a foldable iPhone concept. This would really, across the board, just be such an interesting concept, especially if they can make it this thin. That's one thing that I will say with the iPhone Fold that kind of makes me think is, will they be able to make it as thin as the iPhone Air? The reason why I say that is because we see Samsung, right? They now have one of the thinnest foldable cell phones on the market. But it took them 7 generations to get to that point. And I'm not saying that, obviously, listen, at the end of the day, it's a copycat industry. And once technology is discovered and companies are able to do certain things, other companies kind of piggyback off that and they learn. But I feel like for their first foldable cell phone, I'm not saying it's going to be chunky, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit thicker than that. So, who knows though? Maybe, maybe Apple is going to give us the iPhone Air glued together with a hinge, and bam, 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 we got our foldable iPhone. Again, it's one of those things where we know eventually it's going to happen, the foldable iPhone. When is it going to happen? That's a good question. We're still waiting to figure that one out, sometime next year, most likely. But even then, all I care about with the foldable iPhone is price tag. That's really all I care about, just because if, Samsung started at $1,800, they're working their way up now to $2,000. We saw this if you've been following anything console related. The Xbox was, the Series S was $300 when it first came out 5 years ago. Now the Series S is, I believe the most recent update was $450, I want to say. And the Series X, when it came out, was $500. Now it's up to $699. Everything's going crazy up in price, especially when it comes to consoles. And I think PlayStation's actually doing a good job of not having that happen. But for Xbox, it's ridiculous. 5 years later, and these consoles are, 150 times the price. I don't like that with the foldable phone industry. And Google did a good job of giving us the same exact price tag for their, foldable phone this year as it was last year. Samsung, I kind of fear they're going to keep going up when it comes to this and trying to make the price tag higher and higher. And I understand they want to make money. Obviously, every company, that's the point of being a business, is to make money. But it gets to a point where you kind of outprice your consumer. Right? At a certain point, you're just like, it's too much money for your consumer. So your consumer, who might just pick up your phone every year, like I personally pick up every foldable phone, but eventually you get to a point where your consumer is like, you know what, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it because way too much money now. They lose interest in the product, less consumers buy your products, and then the foldable phone industry goes down and goes to heck. So that's the scary thing when it comes to too expensive. I know some people are like, well, if you're broke, just say you're broke. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from a grand scheme. It's not just one or two people being broke. It comes down to losing interest in the subject. But tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. See you guys next one.